Not all platinums are created equal, or so I've heard from a few friends of mine here on YouTube and fellow trophy enthusiasts, because we have this scale ultra rare to common. Today we're going to focus more on the ultra rare side and take a look at some of my rarest platinums. But hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I apologize in advance if you're new to this channel. This is not how I normally sound. My daughter recently started daycare and I think I am just going to eternally be sick as long as she is in daycare, but hopefully not too distracting throughout the video. Today I'm going to pull up my PlayStation profile and we're going to take you through 15 of my rarest platinums. Now, I'm not someone who tends to go for ultra rare trophies. In fact, if I'm getting a lot of trouble with a trophy list or there's speedrunning trophies or difficulty specific trophies, I rarely tend to go for those types of platinums. I'm hyper specific nowadays. You can go and look at some of my other trophy-related videos, my road to getting 100 platinums, and hear more about a rivalry I had with a good friend of mine here on YouTube, among many other trophy-specific videos I've done to this point. But today, again, specifically taking a look at my 15 rarest platinums. Maybe down the road, we'll take a look at my 15 most common as well. That'll be a rather humiliating exercise, but should be an interesting one nonetheless. But without further ado, let's jump into my PSN profile and take a look at my 15th rarest platinum. All right, so one other thing to note before we jump in here more formally is I removed any duplicate series that were represented in my top 15 rarest platinums. Otherwise, you would have seen multiple Uncharted games, multiple Assassin's Creed games, and I didn't think that would be as interesting, so I just went to the next rarest game in my list. That way we'll get more unique stories and representation from different types of games that I think should be more interesting for you as the audience. So, all that being said, number 15, or coming in at the 15th rarest platinum on my list, is TinTin Reporter Cigars of the Pharaoh. I've actually covered this in some of my other trophy-related videos as well. Once I surpassed 100, I discovered this game and was kind of shocked because I am a huge fan of the Adventures of Tintin comic book series. I'd read it growing up, and I was just shocked to find that there was a game based on one of the individual comics from that series, and it was also one of my favorites, Cigars of the Pharaoh. And so as you might imagine, this game follows the events of that comic book, and think of it as a kind of Telltale meets Professor Layton, like a lot of puzzle solving. It's almost more fitting to be a point-and-click adventure type game than what it actually is, because you're going through these different levels, A to B, and it's very stiff to control. You can tell it's not very polished, and at many times the game actually crashed on me. And so for that very reason, I'll double-click into the guide here and you can kind of take a look. So not overly difficult, only takes one playthrough, but there's a number of different collectibles that you have to find throughout the game. And I've really gotten out of the practice of, one, looking up trophy lists before I play a game, but two, following a guide while I play, just because it really removes you from an what's supposed to be an immersive experience, right? You just have a guide up, whether it's on your phone or your computer. And I did that while I played this game just because it crashed multiple times early on, and I didn't want to have to replay certain segments looking for these collectibles. It would have just been a real pain. But I'm still happy that I got the platinum because, again, this is something that not many people have. Going back, it's an ultra rare 2.3% for everyone that's played the game. Here for folks on PSN Profiles, more of just an uncommon platinum. But again, 7 recent players, 1,100 game owners. Not a ton of people are playing this game because it came out last year and I just think it really flew under the radar. But if you're a fan of the Telltale, Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us type games, even stuff like Toponia, just like point-and-click adventure type games, and you enjoy a heavy emphasis on puzzle solving like your Professor Layton's, it's worth picking up. Understand what you're getting into. It is a little janky, rough around the edges. There's also, in order to get the platinum, there's a number of like on-rails QTE segments where you're going to be dodging obstacles coming towards you, jumping over platforms, and it's very sensitive on the button presses and the timing of these things. And so oftentimes, and there's only like 3 to 4 of them throughout the game, but you have to be perfect in all of them. And so if you fail, you'll just have to kind of quickly quit out of the game, restart, and in some of those instances, you actually lose a little bit of progress in the game to get back to that QTE segment. So the things we do for trophies, right? And in this instance, there were a few cumbersome, tedious things, but all in all, a decent game regardless, a relatively easy platinum to get overall. You'll just need to make sure you pull up a guide to get some of those collectibles. But if you like Adventures of Tintin, I definitely want to check out for sure. Now, coming in at number 14 is arguably the most rusty appropriate game on the list, and that is Flynn and Freckles, a pirate-themed 3D platformer that has a tremendous amount of jank. It's unpolished. It is very floaty. Think like Mario 64 on ice, and that's probably the best way I could describe how Flynn and Freckles controls. But it's otherwise a pretty painless platinum trophy. We'll take a look at those in a second, but as you can see here, 67 owners, 1 recent player, 18 platinum achievers, 702 trophies earned. While it's an uncommon here on PSN Profiles, we have a 28% rare for everyone else. Played this one several years back, and as you can see, you're just popping trophies right and left in the early game, just killing chickens that are running around the island, cutting grass, literally just using your sword to just run around and cut different pixelated pockets of grass that you find and discover throughout the game. Otherwise, you're just defeating the different bosses, but when it does get a little bit more troublesome is these totems. And as you can see, I started the game in May and I didn't come back to it until a few months later in September. Finding those 10 totems, you'll just need a guide. And I, because hardly anyone's played this game, I feel like there were not any guides on YouTube. And if there were, they weren't very good. It wasn't like someone was narrating the specific places to go, because it's not like there's a map to really speak of in this game where you can just quickly teleport to different areas of the island, find these things, and move on. So again, all in all, this is probably not going to run you more than 5 to 6 hours to get the platinum. Nothing is missable. It's really just collect the things, beat the game, and cut some grass. So if you're into janky 3D platformers, if you're like me and you've pretty much played all of the other indie 3D platformers to speak of that are worth playing on current generation consoles, and you're scraping the bargain bin like me, then consider checking out Flynn and Freckles. But for common folk, this is not the game you want to be playing, but not a bad platinum, that's for sure. One of my absolute favorites here at 13 in a game that I played co-op with my good friend Blinkum here in YouTube, also my trophy collecting rival, Operation Tango, an asynchronous multiplayer game that was free on PlayStation Plus a number of years ago. He and I actually streamed the game on his Twitch channel and played through the entirety of it, which was just such a blast. And so we played through the base game again on his Twitch stream, but it wasn't until last year that we finally got around getting the platinum trophy, because you need to play as both of these characters to earn the respective trophies. And so originally, one person was the spy, the other person was the hacker on the Twitch stream. We need to basically swap roles to end up getting that platinum trophy. But if you're looking for really clever, interesting puzzle solving, multiplayer co-op games to play with a significant other or a good friend of yours, look no further than Operation Tango. I don't know if this studio has put out any more games. They did end up adding some like ultra DLC challenge levels that we also ended up cleaning up in the fall of last year, but I cannot recommend Operation Tango enough. Just platinum aside, an all-star, like all-timer game, but certainly from a trophy perspective, to play as each of those roles really helped to kind of appreciate the game a bit more, seeing what he went through in his initial role, and then kind of vice versa with what I did as well. But again, fantastic co-op game, great to play with a friend, and a fun trophy list as well. Now, coming in at 12 is my favorite Assassin's Creed game in the series, which is saying a lot for someone that kind of gave up on Assassin's Creed after the third game, just needed a break, was tired of the annual installments. And then Origins was actually the first game that I played, or one of the first games I played on my PlayStation 4, and I hated it. I did not like the combat at all. The character movement was much different than what I was used to in the previous AC games. Didn't even make it through the prologue mission. Sold my copy, got rid of it, and then it wasn't until like 5 years later that I played Valhalla. Absolutely loved it. And at that point, I kind of went all in on the AC series. If folks are interested, people are probably tired of me talking about Assassin's Creed, but for my own enjoyment, I want to kind of talk through my experience through the series and recommend some of my favorites in a future video. I just want to make sure I go about it the right way. So stay tuned for that at some point. But Origins specifically, I always wanted to love because I've always had a fascination with ancient Egypt. Growing up, I remember just poring over National Geographic magazines, watching documentaries, watching the Discovery Channel with my dad. Like, I just always had an interest in learning more about ancient Egypt. And even the Brendan Fraser, like, mummy movies, The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, I absolutely adore those movies, even though they're kind of goofy and corny. I still love them. And so I always wanted to enjoy Origins, but again, the character movement just felt so different. And so after enjoying Valhalla, I went back to Origins, and it just quickly rose the ranks as my favorite Assassin's Creed game. And, you know, partially was the setting and just exploring Egypt and climbing the pyramids of Giza, doing side missions for Cleopatra. It's just the world building. If there's one thing we got to give Ubisoft credit for, is just building beautiful, immersive, open worlds to explore and be able to discover really cool and interesting things in these historical settings, right? But more than that, it was the story. It was Aya and Bayek, and how very early on in the game something happens that kind of separates them, and they're married, and so they go on this journey together. That's one of revenge, and through that they kind of grow further apart, you know. And I don't want to go too into spoilers, but just how they go on that journey, the things that happen, the conclusions they come to about their love for each other, and whether or not, you know, revenge is really worth it, is really human, and I think grounded in reality as much as you can be, obviously, in an Assassin's Creed game, as I'm sure the commenters are already beginning to make fun of me. But Origins is such an amazing game. I really do love it. I don't think people give the Assassin's Creed series the credit it deserves. Obviously, it comes with its criticisms as well, with microtransactions and just Ubisoft in general. I get it. I totally do. No one is more aware of those things than I am. But Origins is a really, really great game. And I also think of the open world games, it respects your time the most from a trophy perspective. Obviously, there's still a lot of box checking and things to do in the open world that seem a little bit tedious and cumbersome. I get it. But all in all, you can get the platinum in anywhere from like 30 to 50 hours. I know that's a wide spectrum, but it really just depends on how quickly you're doing certain activities. But fantastic story, my favorite open world to explore, and I think the best story in Assassin's Creed, even surpassing my love of AC2. Now, I don't want to go too into the weeds here because I don't want to spoil story things. What I will do is click on the guide here, and I want to see... Is it... no, those are all... There's this trophy that will drive people crazy, and it did a little bit for me because it's total RNG, it's random. You have to go into the desert in a very specific area and just run around on your camel until you experience each of these mirage things. Different things happen that obviously aren't real, but your character, as you would if you were in the desert, has these mirages, begins to kind of go nuts and have these hallucinations of sorts where you'll see bugs or grasshoppers falling from the sky. You'll see a watering hole. And there's like, I don't know, 5 to 8 of these things that need to happen. But it's not like you go to certain areas of the desert to spawn or trigger these hallucinations. They happen at random. So you might see the same hallucination 10 times before you see another unique one, but you need to see all of them for the trophy to pop. And I've read online in Reddit and in forums and YouTube comments that it took some people 5 hours to have all these pop. For some people, it was 30 minutes. So you just never know what you're going to get. And I don't think they've done anything to patch it to be more trophy hunter friendly. So if you're going for the platinum, you might have to clear that hurdle. But otherwise, a fantastic game. My favorite Assassin's Creed game. And again, of the open world games, I think it's the most fun to explore, and from a trophy perspective, probably respects your time the most as well. Coming in at number 11, one of my favorite games from my childhood. Was so thrilled when they remastered this, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Even if you're not a fan of SpongeBob, just a terrific 3D platformer, controls really well. Yeah, and it doesn't waste your time either. So kind of surprised to see this as an ultra rare 2.7% for everyone else, but obviously just kind of an uncommon platinum for folks here on PSN Profiles. Tons of people have obviously played it. Huge game in the speedrunning community, but also just a tremendous amount of fun to play. And it's a surprising time to get the platinum here at 14 hours. But yeah, 100%ing the game, just collecting all the golden spatulas, which kind of act as your stars in a Mario game. But all in all, just beat the game, collect a bunch of stuff, and you get the platinum. No speedrunning, no difficulty specific, and not much that you'll run into in terms of glitches, things not popping. It's a pretty well polished remaster, and again, just a really fun 3D platformer. I can't recommend this one enough. It was good fun. Now, if I ever do a video talking about the platinums I'm most proud of, this is certainly going to make that list. Final Fantasy 16. I'm going to be very careful to avoid any spoilers with this one. This is no freaking joke. Final Fantasy 16 is a beefy game just to beat, you know, even if you're not focusing on all of the side quests, you're looking at, you know, 50 to 60 hours probably, and if you're looking to get the Platinum Trophy, you need to do all of the side quests, and there are a lot of side quests in this game, especially at the end. It was almost like watching Return of the King. You just thought it was never going to end. And the number of side quests that populate towards the end game before you go and do some of those final missions is absurd, but still enjoyable nonetheless. I am very much a 16 supporter. I know a lot of people, this was the final straw. This is no longer Final Fantasy. I get it. It's more of an action game versus a traditional RPG Final Fantasy game, but I think we just kind of have to accept at this point that the Final Fantasy series continues to not be what it was in the past. If you want to play your old school turn-based Final Fantasy game, go play, you know, 8, 7, 9, whatever it is that you love, the pixel remasters, all that good stuff. 16 has some of the most absurd, over-the-top Dragon Ball Z levels of insanity boss battles that I think still hold up. I had to replay this game on Final Fantasy difficulty, which is the highest difficulty setting, in order to pop the remaining trophies, and it wasn't too terribly difficult. I will say the boss battles are no joke, particularly in the end game. I won't name drop any specific bosses, but there were some of them. It is trial and error. Like, it felt like I was playing a level in Celeste. It felt like I was just banging my head against the wall a little bit during a Dark Souls Elden Ring boss, trying to learn the patterns, trying to figure out how to best utilize my summon abilities. And you really need to pull out all the punches to get the platinum and to beat the final boss in this game. It's no joke. It's no walk in the park. It's one I'm very proud of. But my gosh, was it a tremendous amount of fun to replay 16. And the music especially really remains one of the things that stands out the most. Not to mention the Clive and its supporting cast of characters that I do really enjoy. And for any platinum seekers, the thing that really helps you if you're just looking to breeze through it as fast as possible, which truthfully I kind of was, you can skip all cutscenes. And I mean it when I say that probably shaves off 10 to 15 hours on your replay, at least. Like, I was breezing through the game. I think my replay probably took between 12 and 18 hours. I'm just totally guessing. Whereas again, the base game took me anywhere from 50 to 60. So again, love 16. No walk in the park from a platinum perspective. And as you can see, 56 of 69. I've completed one of the DLC packs. I still need to do, I believe, Rising Tides, which I'm very excited to go back and play at some point. But part of me kind of wants to just savor it, because it was nice to come back to 16 a year and a half after its release. Maybe in a year and a half from now, I'll reinstall it, clean up that DLC. So again, 16, pretty dang good. What's also pretty dang good is Yooka Laylee. Oh my gosh. You've heard me talk about this game probably too much, more than you care to hear at this point on my channel. An ultra rare, surprisingly enough, 4.4%. And what's fascinating, as you can see, I got this platinum, and does it say up here? I'm sure it says somewhere, but the sickness in me is kind of taking me over, and I'm a little drowsy. But regardless, it took me like 3 days to get the platinum in this game. I know Yooka Laylee is not what folks wanted it to be, but at the time in my life that I played it, it met the exact need that I wanted, which was just to be reminded why I fell in love with 3D platformers when I was a kid. It doesn't completely recreate the magic of Banjo-Kazooie or Mario 64. Of course, I get it. I don't think it ever could have, but it scratched the itch. It reminded me why I enjoyed 3D platformers. It gave you giant open environment levels to freely explore to your heart's content, find all the pages, find all the quills, and I'm very much looking forward to playing the remaster here, hopefully later this year. And I think at that point, I would definitely want to do a retrospective review, kind of covering all the reasons why I love the game, the reasons why it maybe doesn't live up to all the hype and expectations that people had for it, but why it's still a very competent 3D platformer in my book. So if you've not played Yooka Laylee, no better time later this year when we get Repagey, the remaster from Playtonic. I'm very much looking forward to that, and just a really fun platinum, honestly. Obviously, there's some challenges with the minecart levels specifically. I remember those had me banging my head against the wall, but all things considered, it's beat the game, collect everything. It's the kind of the picture-perfect 3D platformer platinum in my books. Yooka Laylee, I think I'm arguably its biggest fan. Coming in at number 8, we have the 2016 Ratchet & Clank. Such a treat to play this game, which is kind of a soft, sort of pseudo remake of the first game. Surprising at 2.5% ultra rare. Again, just 19.4 here on PSN Profiles. And what was particularly interesting about this one, and why I'm proud to own it, is I ended up playing through the game 3 times. And if you've played the Ratchet & Clank games, you know that you can kind of do a New Game Plus where you retain all of your weapons, all of your bolts, and it's almost as if you're speedrunning the game in future playthroughs. You can just breeze through it once you have all the weapons. But what I was struggling to get is this final trophy. As you can see, April 5th, 2021 is when I got the platinum. And if I scroll down to the trophy that unlocked the platinum for me, it was this one here. Death by Disco. Use the Groovatron on every type of enemy. I remember I had a list, an Excel spreadsheet of every single enemy in the game, and I was ticking them off in my second playthrough. And I got through the end of the game, I beat it, and I didn't get the platinum, and I thought, what the heck happened? And I didn't stop, I didn't uninstall the game, I didn't walk away. I'm like, you know what? Now I'm going to treat this as a speedrun. I'm going to see how quickly I can beat this game, ensuring that I use that gun on every single enemy in the game. And I think I beat the game in like 3 hours, so it didn't take too terribly long. Again, the things you do for platinum trophies, and I mean, again, 2.7% ultra rare, so that's probably the one that holds up most people from getting the platinum. But love the Ratchet & Clank games. I have a giant stack of them that I still haven't played on the PS3 that I'm looking forward to going and playing at some point. I'd love to go and earn the original trilogy via the PS3 remaster. Going Commando's always been my favorite Ratchet & Clank game, but that original trilogy specifically is just timeless. And yeah, Insomniac was kind of firing on all cylinders back then on the PS2. But this 2016 game, ton of fun, a lot of fun to get the platinum as well. But again, just make sure that you're following along and you have a spreadsheet up to knock out every enemy with the Groovatron, so you don't have to play the game 3 times like I did. All right, fellow Jank enthusiasts, and especially all you 3D platformer Jank enthusiasts, get out your notepads, go to your PSN app, and add Gigantosaurus the game to your wish list, okay? Or pick it up in the bargain bin at your local Walmart. I believe this is based on some Netflix TV series for kids that I never heard of. I didn't even know this was based on a TV show. And truthfully, I can't even remember how I came across this game. Maybe I was browsing PSN and I saw these characters and looked like this looks like Imitation Land Before Time. Like, this is this generation's Land Before Time, and that's kind of what it is to a certain extent. Not as charming as of a cartoon, I'm sure. I haven't watched it on Netflix, but this is a 3D platformer, okay? And it's interesting in the sense that you're kind of have this like fixed perspective on each of the dinosaurs when you're in these different levels or these different worlds. Each world you play as a different one of these dinosaurs. Naturally, each one has its unique set of abilities, attributes, platforming abilities that you kind of use to your advantage in each of these levels. It is more or less just like collect everything in the game. I'll check out the guide here. As you can see, easy on the difficulty side, 1 playthrough, nothing missable, 10 hours, beat the game, collect everything, and the grind is essentially just collecting all the collectibles in the game. But what's kind of interesting about this too is that the transition or bridge sequence into each of the next levels is kind of like a Diddy Kong Racing boss battle, where you're racing to your next destination with one of these characters in a Mario Kart type of racing level. I thought that was pretty cool, and what's, again, I keep using the word interesting about that, is that they've now created a Gigantosaurus kart racer as well. I've not played it. I've been meaning to kind of get around to picking it up on sale at some point, but again, can't comfortably recommend this to people unless you are really just a fan of your cutesy collectathon 3D platformers. This is not going to be one that kind of ranks in your top 10 of this generation or anything close to that. But again, if you're looking for something that's kind of charming, very colorful, easy on the mind, and not too terribly difficult on the platinum side, check out Gigantosaurus the game. It's really not too terribly bad. Coming in at number 6 is my 2021 Game of the Year, Kena, Bridge of Spirits. My goodness, Ember Labs, they created something really special with this game. Very Studio Ghibli inspired, kind of Avatar The Last Airbender as well. Darker themes than you would believe, looking at these cutesy little rot characters and even Kena herself, but kind of reminds me of just like a hidden gem on the PS2 in terms of how it controls the gameplay specifically. You have some Uncharted like platforming, some Dark Souls levels of difficulty when it comes to some of the boss battles, but again, little dodge roll action, bow and arrow, and just controlling these little rot characters in a Pikmin-like fashion. Just such a charming game. Absolutely adore Kena. I've been meaning to do a replay because I obviously haven't played it since launch, and 1.8% in terms of the platinum rarity, and I believe it because when this game launched, it had the type of trophies that I typically stay far and clear away from, and that is beating the game on the hardest difficulty. Even on the easiest difficulty setting, some of those bosses are no joke, so there was no way I was ever going to beat this game on master difficulty. And so thankfully, when the game first launched, there was a very easy way to beat the game naturally and then start a new file and glitch to the end of the game playing on the master difficulty, and you essentially just watch the final cutscene and you pop that difficulty specific trophy. That naturally, after a week of the game was out, was patched, and you no longer could do that. But trophy hunters always find a way, and there is a new way, I think, to kind of glitch out of a level and spawn into the end of the game, pop that master difficulty specific trophy, so you don't actually have to beat the game on the hardest difficulty setting. Again, otherwise, I wouldn't personally have the platinum in Kena Bridge of Spirits, but trophies aside, charming, such a fun time, doesn't overstay its welcome. I think really just kind of the perfect length, really reminded me of kind of a PS2 era action platformer, and we just don't get enough games like this nowadays. So I hope Ember Labs is hard at work on Kena 2, or maybe another game. Again, their animation style is just very striking and really stands out. So looking forward to seeing more of what this studio does going forward. But again, Kena Bridge of Spirits, definitely happy to have this platinum. Also, very happy to have the Wolfenstein, the New Order Platinum. Talk about plats that are no freaking joke in terms of difficulty. You need to beat this game on the hardest difficulty setting, and it is very trial and error, but it reminded me of why I fell in love with playing the Uncharted games on crushing difficulty. Not on initial playthroughs, because it would be too distracting, too disruptive to your enjoyment of the story. And I have to highlight the story in Wolfenstein The New Order because you would think of it as this kind of like just jabroni first-person shooter, meathead, BJ Blazkowicz, just running and gunning, kind of a Duke Nukem personality. But my goodness, did Machine Games pen a very engaging, immersive story. They humanize BJ in a way that is believable, you're interested, you want to learn more. When he has his romance kind of with Anya, you're just engaged. You want BJ to be successful and him and Anya to kind of just ride into the sunset, which of course does not really happen, but it's also kind of a shame that we're probably not going to see the conclusion to this trilogy anytime soon, with Machine Games now making, of course, the Indiana Jones game. But all that aside, I'm distracted. I love Wolfenstein The New Order, and it is one of the most fun trophy lists for a game in recent memory, honestly. And I mean that because, and I'll do my best to kind of not spoil anything. So you obviously have the collectibles, which you'll probably need to follow a guide for. You'll find a lot of them naturally. Thankfully, there's chapter select, so you can kind of go back into these levels, quickly clean up the ones that you missed. And when you go into chapter select, you actually see which specific collectibles you're missing. And so it's very easy to just follow a guide and clean those up. But what I loved about the game are these perks, which essentially has you going through each of the levels and killing the Nazis in very specific ways to unlock these perks. And so you have stealth perks specifically, where you have to do things in a very stealth-like fashion. And then you have the tactical ones, where maybe you have to use a sniper rifle, pick people off, kill 50 people with headshots. You have the knife perks, where you're, killing the Nazis with throwing knives. It really forces you to make use of every weapon at your disposal, play the game in very specific ways, given certain circumstances. And I think that was just really neat, because I would have otherwise played this game stealthily as often as possible, and then in the rare instance that I set off an alarm, I'd have to engage in a firefight. But getting and unlocking all these perks requires you to play it in a variety of different ways. And I think that's what makes trophy collecting fun, is when it challenges you to kind of step outside of your comfort zone, play a game in a different way, and I think appreciate and find new ways to enjoy the experience than you otherwise would have. So unfortunately, they kind of didn't have these perks in New Colossus, the second game, and I would never get the platinum in that game, because if you're in the know with the platinum in New Colossus, you have to essentially beat the game on the hardest difficulty, and there's a permadeath setting, so you have to go back to the very beginning would you die at any point, which is ludicrous. I would never do that. But again, playing the game on the hardest difficulty in New Order really requires you to kind of just observe your environment, learn the patterns of how kind of commanders and officers are walking around the level to the best of your ability, move around in a stealth-like fashion, and then that final boss is just good luck. Good luck. But love the New Order, love the New Colossus. I am, as often as I can shout the praises for these games and encourage folks to play them, I will. And for trophy enthusiasts, it's a fun platinum to go for as well. And speaking of Uncharted on crushing difficulty, we have Drake's Fortune here as part of the Remastered collection. Love the Uncharted series. I go back and play that original trilogy every couple of years, and just very breezy games to get through. On crushing, obviously, it's a little bit more challenging, but the difficulty trophies do stack, so if you beat the game on, easy or normal, you can unlock those crushing and hard difficulty trophies on a subsequent playthrough. And yeah, I really enjoy the Uncharted trophy list that really just require you to collect all of the different treasures, kill all the enemies in unique ways. It's kind of similar to that perk system in the New Order where, again, you have to make use of all the different weapons, kill enemies with headshots, maybe kill enemies while hanging from a ledge, all those different things. There's guides out the wazoo on YouTube, so you can very easily go to different chapters to kind of execute on those, I guess, perk-specific trophies that you have to unlock. But what's particularly interesting are these DLC trophy packs that came with the remaster collections. I would like to meet the person that has beaten an Uncharted game on Brutal. A difficulty harder than crushing. I could never do it. Like, never say never, but never. I just wouldn't subject myself to that amount of pain and suffering. But I'd be curious if anyone watching this has done that. And you still have any hair in your head, right? I mean, just how much hair did you pull out of your head going through a game like Uncharted on Brutal difficulty? I personally couldn't do it, but love these games otherwise, and still holding out hope that maybe for the PlayStation 6 generation, Naughty Dog returns to Uncharted. Coming in at number 3, one of the platinums I'm most proud of is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, a 3.1% ultra rare, and no joke. Obviously, you have to kind of beat the game, do a tremendous amount of the miscellaneous side activities, Mage Guild, Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, all the side content, and it just takes a tremendous amount of time. My brother-in-law actually kind of helped me with this one because I knew in my lead up to 100 Platinum Trophies, I never would have otherwise gotten it if it wasn't for his help, particularly on the, I think, 10 side quests. No joke. Those that have gotten the Skyrim Plat will know, but arguably my favorite game of all time. You know, it's one of the most relaxing go-to games for me when I'm feeling stressed, starting a new character, wandering this open world. There's not much I could say about Skyrim that hasn't already been said, but it's absolutely one of my all-time favorites, and very, very thankful and proud to have the Platinum Trophy for it. Now, coming in at number 2 is honestly one of my favorite 3D platformers of the past generation, but I have to also acknowledge that it's very difficult to recommend this game to other people, and that is Tamarin. And it's something that, again, I don't know how I stumble across all these 3D platformers, but I don't know if it's me seeking them out, they have a way of finding me, but regardless, this is a game that was developed by some Rare developers from back in the day on the 64, and this game was intended to be a spiritual successor to Jet Force Gemini, if you've ever played that. And the developers specifically also wanted to kind of recreate and show the beauty of their home country. I don't know if it's like Norway, Switzerland. It's some beautiful place with breathtaking scenery, mountainsides, forests, things like that. And they're very successful at creating a beautiful, graphically looking, just impressive game, okay? You play this little Tamarin monkey, and in the very beginning of the game, your family is taken from you by bugs, okay? It's very weird. And so initially, you're running around, platforming through these beautiful, colorful environments, jumping around, collecting fruit, collecting all kinds of fun little things, and then eventually you have to save each of your individual family members, and you basically get off of your 4 legs onto your hind legs, and you have a little blaster rifle, and you're like running around these warehouses killing bugs in an effort to save your family. It's so freaking weird. It is very much of like the N64, PS1 hidden gem era that you would have never otherwise found unless someone told you about it on YouTube, and I'm here to do that. But anyways, I'm going to highlight this game in a future 3D platformer hidden gems videos. I don't want to go too into the details of all of it. Let's focus more on the trophies specifically. As you can see, there's no guide here. There's no guide here because there's been one recent player of this game, 1,200 game owners, and very few achievers of the platinum. 3%, okay? 13.61 rare otherwise. And it is very much the type of 3D platformer trophy list that I love, which is beat the game and collect everything. Now, what's troubling about that is the in-game mechanics don't really have a map system. There's no way to teleport back to other areas, and you can get lost very easily in these environments. And while there's a counter for the collectibles in each of the different regions, it can still be very difficult to know what it is you're supposed to collect and where you're supposed to find it. So I give all of those kind of cautionary pieces that, like, if you are a trophy hunter and you're looking for a beautiful 3D platformer to play, you're going to find a beautiful 3D platformer, but how fun it is to collect everything, your mileage will vary with this one. But a fantastic soundtrack that David Wise of Donkey Kong Country fame, he composed. It's also one of the soundtracks that you probably hear most in the background of my videos. I do a lot of David Wise music in the background of my videos, and the Tamarin soundtrack is one that I highlight very frequently. But again, a lot of it is just collecting everything in each of the different regions, collecting all the fireflies, upgrading your blaster gun to its full capacity, and whatever the story-specific ones are as well. I will be highlighting Tamarin in a future video with tons of gameplay footage and a deeper dive on my thoughts, but for now, just know it's a hidden gem 3D platformer. Your mileage may vary. There's some gameplay mechanics that will rub you the wrong way, but David Wise composed the soundtrack, so it's worth playing. Consider checking it out. And then last, but certainly not least, my rarest platinum here is Kingdom Hearts 1, based on the Remaster HD collection. 2.1% ultra rare. I also had my brother-in-law help me with this one. You can go back and watch my Road to 100 Platinums to hear all about it. I won't go too into the details, but I've never been a fan of playing Kingdom Hearts on the proud difficulties, even though I enjoy playing Uncharted on crushing. I just like playing Kingdom Hearts with kind of low resistance, low energy, not too terribly difficult. I just want to run around, defeat the Heartless, visit all the Disney worlds, my pals Donald and Goofy, and just enjoy some classic Kingdom Hearts. My favorite game of all time, I should mention that as well, and definitely no joke of a platinum, but very proud to have it, very thankful to have rung in 100 platinums, with it being my 100th platinum, and not surprised to know and say that it is my rarest platinum as well. Now, very quickly, I'll tab over for all my 113 platinum trophies. I had ranked them here on PSN Profiles, and as you can see, we didn't talk about Valhalla, we didn't talk about AC Syndicate, Uncharted 3, Uncharted 2, and some of these other games here that were listed, but just wanted you to know that, again, as I said at the top, I left some of those out. Hopefully it made for a more engaging conversation with not many duplicate series represented. But really just want to thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments section below, what do you think about these 15 platinums? Even though they're not ultra rare or anything like that, they're rare to me. I'm happy to have them, and I enjoyed earning them over the course of the past many years. But let me know down below, what are some of your rarest platinums? And also let me know, would you like to see more of these trophy related videos going forward? Once again, I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.